everyone. Welcome to Hekate. She is the mother of witches, right? So I'm excited to be here with the Blue Witch tonight to learn all about working with her. And this is probably the most exciting one, I think, for me anyway, that we've done so far. So thank you all so much for coming. I know Blue Witch has a lot of information to get through today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand that over. And if you have any questions, please pop them in that question icon. We'll do a live Q&A at the end, and it'll be just a little easier to kind of keep track of everything, so she doesn't have to keep, keeping up with the chat, so she can deliver the information you guys are all looking for. So I'm handing it over. Enjoy.
I'm hoping I got a very I tried to cover everything, at least hit it a little. So let's start off with our little bit of grounding that we always do. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna relax, drop your shoulders, relax your neck, unclench your jaw, remove your tongue from the top of your mouth, and take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now, this is going to be a little different. I'm doing something different here. I want you to imagine yourself standing at a crossroads, not in a dramatic or scary way, but just a quiet place where three paths meet, and there's like a stillness there. There's a sense that something is about to shift, even if you don't know what yet. And that space and that feeling, that is where Hekate lives. So she is often the goddess of crossroads, but that's not just about physical roads. It's about those moments in your life where something is changing, when you're deciding who you are, where you're going, what you're leaving behind. She is the guide in those in between spaces, right? So, like major life decisions, or when you're at a crossroads in your life and you're making life changing decisions, that is where she's going to meet you. Um, and if you're here, I think that there's a reason. I think there's a reason you're here. People don't usually stumble into working with Hekate randomly. There's usually a sense of curiosity or a pull, or even just a quiet back of your mind. I don't know why, but I feel like I need to learn more about this. So let's start at the very beginning. Who she is, where she comes from, why she has such a strong presence even now. Hecate is a very, very ancient goddess. Her origins go all the way back to early Greek traditions, but a lot of scholars believe that she even predates that she's older than that. So, with roots that trace back to what we call now like modern day Turkey, okay? So right away, we're like not talking about a new trendy figure. This is a presence that has been known and honored for thousands of years. In early Greek texts, Hecate is described as a powerful and respected goddess. What's interesting is that she wasn't feared in a way that people sometimes assume today. She was honored, she was trusted, she was a giver of blessings over land, sea, and sky. She runs part of the underworld. It's important to understand that, because somewhere along the line, her image became a lot darker and more intimidating than it originally ever was. Just over time, as cultures shifted and stories evolved, Hecate became more strongly associated with magic, with spirits, and the underworld. But that doesn't mean that those things are like in a negative sense with her. It means that she moves between worlds. So she exists in the in between spaces, between light and dark, between life and death, and the known and the unknown. And that's why she becomes so relevant in people's lives now, because we all go through those in between moments. Now, one of the most well known stories that connects Hecate to this role is the story of Persephone. So, in this myth, Persephone is taken into the underworld by Hades, and her mother, Demeter, is searching for her and can't find her. Hecate is the one who hears Persephone's cries, and she doesn't ignore it. She doesn't turn away. She steps forward and she helps guide Demeter, and she goes into the underworld, and she brings Persephone back out and becomes this companion to her, someone who can move freely between the worlds of the living and dead to bring her back. So again, we see that theme. She's not trapped in one place. She is a guide between spaces, a witness, like a protector in moments where things feel uncertain or unseen. And that's a big part of why people feel drawn to her today, not because everything is perfect in their lives, but because something is shifting. A lot of times people will find her like when they're at rock bottom, when they feel like an outcast, when they feel like they don't fit in, or when they feel alone. So let's talk about how she's commonly like represented, because this helps you start recognizing her energy in a more grounded way. So you'll often see her depicted holding torches, and those torches are not just like aesthetic. They represent illumination and guidance and the ability to see clearly in the dark. She's also associated with keys. Keys represent access, unlocking, permission, the idea that there are doors, both physical and spiritual, that can be opened when the time is right. And then there's the crossroads, not just literal intersections, but symbolic ones. Moments where you're choosing a new path, you're ending something or stepping into something unfamiliar, where something's ending and there's a new beginning. So in some depictions, she appears as a triple formed goddess, three faces or three bodies, each looking a different direction. And this isn't something to be like intimidated by. It just simply represents her ability to see from multiple perspectives at once. So you got like different associations with that: past, present, future. Some people associate her with the mother, maiden, and crone. Um, but she can see different paths all at the same time. She's aware in a way that goes beyond a single viewpoint. And for someone who feels lost or uncertain or in a transition, that kind of presence can feel incredibly grounding. Now, something that I want to gently clear up early on here, because this comes up a lot for beginners, is the idea that Hecate is a dark goddess in a way that should scare you or something, but she's not here to harm you. She's not something to fear. She's direct. She is honest. She doesn't sugarcoat things, but that's still very different from being dangerous. And a lot of times it's like you get this kind of dangerous persona around her. Um, if anything, her energy tends to show up in a way that helps you see truth more clearly, even if that truth is something that you have been avoiding. And that's where people sometimes get uncomfortable, not because of her, not because of what, but because of what's being revealed. So if you felt a little nervous or unsure or even intimidated by her reputation, you're definitely not alone. But a lot of that comes from misunderstanding or from information that lacks context. At her core, Hecate is a guide. She's a guardian. She is a presence that stands with you at the threshold of change. So when we move from history to myth into real lived experience, the next question naturally becomes, how does Hecate actually show up for people? Because it's just one of those things. You got to understand her story. And it's another thing to recognize her presence in your own life. And this is where things start to feel a little more personal. So Hecate doesn't usually show up in loud, overwhelming ways right away. I'm going to add that right away, because I have my own experiences with Hecate. I don't consider what I do, I look at things a little bit different. So I don't think that what I do is technically working with Hecate, but I say I work with Hecate because that's the terminology that's used now. But we're talking about she can show up and be persistent and be loud, but for the most part it's more like patterns forming than one big simple dramatic moment. So you might notice repeated symbols or keys showing up in random places, or imagery of torches, crossroads, either physically noticing them more often or feeling like you keep ending up in a decision type moment in your life. Like decision points keep showing up. Um, Another really common way that people connect with her presence is through dogs. Hecate has a strong association with dogs, especially as guardians. And some people hear barking at unusual times. They dream about dogs or suddenly feel drawn to them in a new way. And then there's the feeling, there's just this feeling. It's a little bit harder to explain, but once you experience it, you'll understand it. It feels like being gently watched over, not in like an invasive type way, but like in a steady, aware, like something is paying attention to you, especially when you're going through a transition or trying to make a decision. Now, I can tell you how she convinced me that she was here. And she did show up a little bit louder for me. But looking back, there were a lot of little signs that I ignored at first, or that I'm like, no, I wasn't looking to work with the deity. I was not in search at all of that. 25 years, I worked with one deity. That was Kokopelli, and that was for maybe a year. Other than that, nothing. So, what she did to me was she would come and send her dogs, her dog, to my bedside, and I got woke up a couple. It's like this wasn't just once, okay? Because like we talked about before, a sign is not a sign if you can easily write it off. I was woke up out of a dead sleep in the middle of the night, not once, but twice, by one loud single roof. And it sounded like a pit bull standing beside my face, like barking in my face. And so the second time that happened, I'm like, okay, like I hear you, okay. But I still really didn't do anything about it. So the third time, I was awake. I was awake. I was completely aware. It was daytime. I'm sitting right here. I was recording a video. I don't have a dog, for reference. I don't have a dog. My neighbors do not have a dog. Um, but I'm sitting here. I'm recording a video. When I go back to edit it, there's a dog barking in the video. And I'm like, I didn't hear it in the moment, but like me and my husband both rewatched this video like 100 times. We're like, did I touch something? Did I move something? Did I knock something down? Was there anything that could have caused that noise? And there was nothing. There was no explanation for it. So I'm like, okay, you know. So for some people, her presence feels calm and grounding. That's what I get. There's never even in the loud bark, and it may have startled me out of my sleep, but it didn't feel chaotic. It didn't feel, it was still just strong and steady. Um, for others, it feels a little intense at first. And maybe that's, maybe that was my intense. Not because it's harmful, but because it's very clear. It's very direct. And I didn't get like, hey, I want your attention. What I took from it was like a warning almost, like there's something you need to be doing. You're missing something. Pay attention. That's what I had, that was my inner feeling, my gut feeling of that. Like you need to be paying attention and you're not. I need your attention. Rough. That's how it just comes across. So she doesn't tend to come through as vague or confusing energy. You know that it's her. She will find a way so that you're not confused. If anything, people often say that things start to become more clear, even if that clarity forces them to face things that they've been avoiding. Now, this is where I want you to stay really grounded, because not every sign is Hekate. And this is important because when you first start opening up spiritually, it's very easy to start connecting everything to one thing, especially when you want it to be true, right? You want to be chosen. You want to think like she wants to work with me. And that causes your brain to make these connections that you wouldn't generally make. Seeing a key once, that's probably just a key. Having a dog or hearing a dog bark once, that's normal. But it was the consistent showing up, the consistent pattern, the consistent way that it happened for me. And then when those two didn't work, she tried something else. So what we're looking for is consistency and pattern, things repeating in a way that feels intentional, moments that stand out to you, not because someone told you that they should, but because something inside you pauses and is like, wait, that felt different. That's not normal. So Hecate's presence is often recognized over time it builds. It's not all at once. Now, beyond the signs and symbols, let's talk about what she's actually associated with, because this helps you understand the type of energy that you're working with. Hekate is strongly connected to liminal spaces. That means spaces that exist between two things. So doorways, thresholds, crossroads, twilight, the edge of between night and day. You know, she's associated with the moon, particularly the darker phases, but not in a negative way, in a reflective way. The parts of life that are quieter and more internal and more unseen. The dark moon, I think, has a lot to do with the fact that she's connected to transformation, and traditionally you would use the dark moon for inner reflection or shadow work. Um, she's associated with endings that lead to beginnings. Shadow work means, just to throw that out there, because some people don't know, but shadow work is the process of understanding yourself more deeply, in a nutshell, including the parts that you might usually ignore. She is also tied to protection, and that's something that a lot of people overlook. She isn't just about change, she's about guiding you safely through that change. That's where her role as a torchbearer really matters, because she's not just pointing out the path for you, she is lighting it so that you can actually see where you're going. And that's why so many people experience her as both grounding and empowering, because she walks that path with you. She doesn't choose it for you, but she will light it up so that you have the clarity, so you can see where you need to go, and then she will walk it with you. So let's talk about communication, because this is where a lot of beginners get stuck. People often expect communication to be obvious, like very obvious, like hearing a voice or receiving a clear message instantly. And while that can happen for some people, it's not the most common way, especially in the beginning. Hekate communicates through intuition, those quiet inner knowings that you feel. Um, it's steady, it's not chaotic. Dreams. She comes through in a lot of people's dreams, very symbolic, sometimes very vivid, sometimes repeating. Synchronicities, which is like meaningful coincidences that line up in a way that feels intentional. Patterns, again, things repeating over time. Her communication style is not rushed, it builds up. So you might get a feeling at first, then a symbol, then a situation in your life that reflects what you've been sensing. It layers. And your job is not to force meaning onto everything, but to observe and to notice what repeats, to write things down and to stay grounded in your own awareness. Because the strongest forms of communication that you'll develop with her is not going to come from outside validation. It's going to come from your ability to recognize what feels true to you. Everyone's relationship with her is different. Every person's relationship will develop differently based on their needs, what they're going through, and what they have chosen. Now, something that is really important to understand is that communication is a two-way relationship. It's not about asking for signs. It's not about, it's about creating space to listen. And this is where a lot of people start to wonder, like, okay, but how do I actually begin? Right? So the first thing to understand is this: you don't need permission to respectfully, she threw that at me, reach out to Hekate. You don't have to wait for a dramatic sign. You don't have to be chosen. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to wait for that stuff. If you feel curious, if you feel drawn, if you feel that quiet pull, that is enough to begin. Now, that does not mean that every feeling or calling, like we talked about, is that. We're going to hit that again later, but it does mean that you're allowed to take the first step. So yes, you can call to her. I know that's a huge question, or something I see a lot. Well, she didn't call me, or can I call her? Can I ask her if she wants to work with me? Yes, you can. And when you do, it doesn't have to be complicated. You can literally start by speaking out loud or in your head. It doesn't matter. Something simple like, Hekate, if you are willing to work with me, I'm open to learning. I'm open to building a respectful connection. Show me what I need to see in a way that I can understand. And that's it. There's no perfect wording. or memorized prayers. It's just honesty. She doesn't want you to perform for her. That is why people connect with her so much. She doesn't want performative. She just wants you the way you are, and she wants you to be honest. So let's talk about creating a space for her, because this helps ground the connection into something physical. And this is where altars come in, but I want you just to keep this simple and realistic. Okay, because if you're coming in, you're brand new and you don't have a lot of stuff, an altar does not need to be elaborate. You do not need to go out and buy a bunch of things. You don't need to copy everything that you see online and then like throw it all into one altar. That's not necessary. um at its core, an altar is just a dedicated space. So it can be a small corner of a shelf or a table or even a box that you open when you're working close, when you're a box that you open when you're working with her and that you can close when you're done. So I have a little travel altar that I got it on TikTok. It's just a little tin can. I love that thing. It's like my favorite thing I've ever gotten off TikTok. And I've gotten like, I've gotten some expensive things off TikTok. That's my favorite thing that I've ever gotten. This little travel altar. I can take it with me anywhere I go. It fits in my purse, has all the things that represent her, and a little tea light candle, and that's all I need. So I love my little travel altar. But what matters is the intention, not the size. That's my point. For Hecate, you might include things that just connect to her symbolism, like a candle representing her torches and her guidance. It doesn't have to be a giant pillar candle or something fancy. It can just be a little tea light. A key representing access and opening pathways. You could even use the key to represent opening the communication, opening your own communication with her. Something personal like a journal or an object that feels meaningful to you. Some people include images or statues, but that's completely optional. What you're doing is creating a place where your focus can land, a place where you can return consistently, because consistency is what builds the relationship, not perfection. So let's talk about offerings. I'm trying to hit everything that I've been asked about. Let's talk about offerings. I know I'm going through things fast, but this is another area where people tend to overcomplicate things or feel like they're going, to do it wrong or something. And offerings are just a simple way of giving. They're not about being expensive. They're not about proving anything. They're about intention and respect. Traditionally, Hekate has been associated with offerings like garlic and eggs, bread, honey, wine, but you don't need to stress out about doing it like historically perfect. You can start simple. Now, if you want, those are her traditional. If you want to give her the traditional things, I'm sure she appreciates that. But she's not going to like judge you and be like, I'm not working with that if it's not exactly traditional. It's fine. Um a small piece of food works, a cup of water, lighting a candle and dedicating that time to her, because even your time and attention can be an offering. She loves it when I pick up trash outside. That's like an offering that I do for her. Sitting down, focusing, speaking, listening, that matters. That's more important than what you give. It's more important how you give it. Are you present? Are you intentional? Are you showing up consistently? Because that's what builds trust. Now, something else that I want to say clearly, because this can get misunderstood, is that you do not need to fear offending her by making a little small mistake or something. Like, she's not waiting for you to mess up. She responds to sincerity and effort, and she responds to respect. That's the biggest thing with Hekate, is respect. If you approach her honestly, you're already doing it right. Now, as you begin, you might start wondering, how do I know if she's actually hearing me? Or how do I know if she's responding? And this is where patience has to come in, because sometimes the response is not immediate. Sometimes it shows up as a shift in your awareness, a sense of clarity where there was confusion before, or a situation in your life just kind of starting to move differently. Sometimes it's subtle at first, and sometimes it builds over time into something much more obvious. But here's the key to it. you're not trying to force a response. You are creating an option and then allowing space for something to meet you there. Let's gently like touch on something that a lot of people think about but don't always say out loud, is how do I know if she's calling me versus me just being interested? Because there's a difference there, and understanding that difference can help you stay grounded as you move forward in this. So let's talk about it in a real way, because this is, you can either stay grounded or you can start overthinking everything. A calling, a calling from Hekate is usually consistent. It's calm and it's persistent. It does not feel chaotic. It doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel like pressure. It feels more like something that keeps returning to you, even when you're not actively looking for it. You might try to ignore it, but it's going to come back. You might question it, and it still feels steady to you. You might take a break from thinking about it, and somehow it's still going to show up again in a natural way. She is very repetitive and persistent. That's a that's very different from like a passing interest. Interest can be strong, but it tends to fade. It spikes and then they drop off. So it's often driven by curiosity alone, if it's just you being interested. A calling, on the other hand, has that sense of depth to it, and it doesn't need to be dramatic to be real. So here's something important. You do not need a calling to work with Hecate, though. This is where people get kind of stuck, because they wait and they wait and they wait for something undeniable to happen before they allow themselves to begin. But relationships don't only start because one side calls out first. You're allowed to reach out first. You can initiate it. And sometimes what people think is calling actually develops after they begin working with her, not before. And the thing about her is, you don't, this is speaking from my own experience. The thing about her, though, and things that I've observed and the way other people interact with her, it's not like she comes and calls you and then all of a sudden you're in this like servitude relationship with her, or you're like stuck in that way. It's more like noticing that she's always been with you. Like, once you feel her energy, once you connect to it, once you get into building that relationship, all these little moments throughout your whole life, they'll pop up in your head and you're like, she's been with me the whole time and I just didn't notice. That's how it usually hits people. So instead of asking, is she calling me, though, a better question to ask is, am I willing to show up and see what happens? That keeps you grounded and out of that loop of second guessing everything. So let's like assume, because I know people here are at different levels. So let's say that you started, you reached out, you set up a small space, you made a few offerings, you've been paying attention. And then the next question becomes, how do I know if she's actually responding? So this is where we come back to patterns, but also change. Hekate's presence often shows up through shifts, internal shifts, external shifts, situations in your life beginning to move. You might notice you're thinking more clearly. Sometimes things that are not aligned in your life start to fall away. You're being nudged to make decisions that you've been avoiding. And I want to be honest about this part because it's important. Working with Hekate can bring change. It shouldn't be like chaotic destruction, but necessary movement. And I think sometimes people confuse that, because they're like, well, I started working with Hekate and then, everything fell apart. Nothing should be falling apart, but things do need to, you have to remove what shouldn't be there in order to make room for the things that should. And that causes change, and people get uncomfortable with change. People don't like change and they feel like their whole world is crumbling down. But then write it out. It's happening for a reason, and you're being placed somewhere else. You will have that clarity that you're going to know where you're going. You should know why this is happening. Take a second to breathe, step back, and really look at what's happening in your life, what you're leaving behind, and where you have that potential to go. And things should click for you. Um, it's just necessary movement. If something's stagnant or if something's holding you back, if something is out of alignment, her presence can bring awareness to that, and awareness leads to change. So things might start shifting into like a more honest place, and that's just her role as a guide. That's where her role really comes in as a guide, because she is not just showing you what needs to change, she's also helping you navigate through that change. So when it comes to building a relationship that actually lasts, starting is one thing, but maintaining it is where the real connection forms. So the biggest mistake that I see people make is inconsistency. And I know that's like really hard to hear, because you're like, do I have to be like every day with it? No, you don't. But don't commit to something that you can't maintain. Um, people go all in. They go all in for a few days or weeks, and then life gets busy and everything just stops. And then they're like, "Oh, I have to start over." You don't have to start over. It doesn't need to be all or nothing in the first place. So a lasting relationship is built through small, consistent actions. Lighting a candle once a week. Just start with once a week. Speak to her regularly. Spend a few minutes, just 3, 4 minutes at your altar, or journal what you notice right after that. It doesn't have to take hours to work with her. It just has to be steady. Think of it like you're building trust. It's just like when you're building trust with a human. You're showing up again and again in a way that is real and sustainable for you. And then another thing that helps maintain the relationship is honesty. You don't need to pretend to be perfect. You don't need to like filter yourself. If you're confused, say that. If you're unsure, tell her that. If you feel disconnected, tell her that too. A real connection is built on openness, not performance. And over time, as you keep showing up, something about the whole thing just really starts to deepen. The connection becomes more familiar, the communication becomes easier to recognize, and the presence feels more steady. And that's when you move from like trying to connect into actually having a relationship. Now, as the relationship builds, there's something else that naturally comes up, and that's understanding how she communicates with you specifically. And this is something that I cannot tell you for you. Um, Only you can know that. This is where things become very personal, because while there are common ways that Hecate communicates, the way that you experience her will become unique to you over time. So during the beginning of your relationship, you're still learning like the general language, the signs and the symbols and the patterns, but as your relationship builds, you start developing your own way of recognizing her presence. And for one person, it might be dreams that become clearer or more symbolic, or for someone else, it might be a strong intuitive voice that feels calm and direct. Um, it might be physical sensations like a shift in the atmosphere, or a grounded, steady feeling when they connect, or there might be a dog barking in your ear. I mean, there's no, there's no single correct way, and this is where trusting yourself becomes really important. Um, because the more that you second guess everything, the harder it is to actually notice what's happening. So that doesn't mean that you assume everything is a message. You just stay balanced, you stay aware, but you also allow yourself to recognize when something feels different. And over time, you'll start to notice like, this is what it feels like when I'm connecting, or this is what it feels like when something is being shown to me. This is what it feels like when I'm just overthinking. You'll learn to know those differences, but that level of awareness is not something that happens magically overnight. It builds through your experience. So, like I said, I really can't tell you how that feels for you. Um, well, thank you, Elle. I just glanced over. But I really can't tell you how that's going to feel for you because, like I said in the beginning, every relationship with her is going to be different. You're going to develop your own personal relationship because not everybody goes through all the exact same situations or the exact same things in life. And she's helping a lot of people with a lot of things. So you're going to bond with her through what's happening in your life when you're at those crossroads, or when you feel that you're at your lowest, or when you think that you don't have somebody with you, or you have to make some kind of life-changing decision that you know is going to change a lot of things for you. That's when you want to lean on her, when you want to open yourself up for her guidance. And that's when she becomes this very important piece of your life. And it's not like you're working with her. You're not working with her. You're not can she help you in spell work? Yes. You can ask her to help you in spell work. You can ask her to lend energy. She loves to help in protection spells, but it's more like your equals, right? Like she's your friend. I, it sounds so simple to put it that way, but it's like she's your friend. She's there to walk with you. She's there to support you. She's there to give you guidance, but you have to be open to that yourself. Um, I don't know, let's talk about signs. Let's talk about signs a little more clearly because this is like people really want to understand this. Hecate is commonly associated with keys and dogs and torches or fire, crossroads, the moon, the darker phases. We talked about that, the nighttime, especially that quiet, still feeling late at night. And you might also notice like recurring numbers. I think that a thing with her tends to be like the fives, 555, sometimes 333, repeated imagery, or even certain words or themes that show up. But again, this is again and again, this is very repeatedly. This isn't one instance. It's a lot. But also here's like a couple of little lesser known animals, because I know like we always talk about the dogs, we talk about spiders. Um, Once in a while, people may associate her with a snake, but she's also associated with deer, and she's associated with horses. She has like these little associations that you don't really know unless you've researched her. A sign usually feels like or I mean, it's the repetition, it's the timing, it's how it lands with you. It feels like something that it gets your attention. It's quiet, but in a clear way. It shouldn't make you panic, shouldn't feel urgent, shouldn't feel fear. I'm trying to really think how the barking made me feel, and it's not like I did get it. I think it's because I was asleep, so I did get startled, but and instantly after I was like, girl, like I didn't feel intimidated. I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel like, like I couldn't talk back to her or something. I'm like, okay, I hear you. Um, it's just however it's going to land for you, though. I mean, that's just my experience. I can only really teach you from my experience and what I've seen of other people. But a sign usually feels like something that's going to get your attention. Hecate doesn't need to overwhelm you to be present. She'll make herself known, and like I said, you'll know that it's her. If something feels chaotic or confusing or like fear driven, that's not typically how she operates. I'm not going to say that she never does that, because I feel like in extreme situations, she may step it up a little bit to get your attention. If it's something where, we're talking about like unaliving ourselves or something like that, I mean, she may step up and be in your face about it. But even at that, her energy is still going to feel steady and grounded and direct. So even when it's intense, it shouldn't be disorienting. It brings clarity, not confusion. So if you ever feel like you're unsure, come back to that. Does this feel grounding, or does this feel destabilizing? Because if it's destabilizing you, it's probably not her. Um, that question alone, just asking yourself that question alone, that can help you filter a lot of things. So let's talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough. What if you reach out and nothing happens? Crickets, right? So this is where Crickets are also a sign of Hekate, by the way. It just popped in my head. But I get these like, sometimes I get these like really big black crickets in here. I don't know how they get in the house, but I always find them in the bathroom. And I'm like, I don't like the bugs. But anyways, um, so what did I just ask you? Oh, what if nothing happens? Okay, so this is where people tend to doubt themselves and they immediately think that they did something wrong or they're being ignored. But in reality, it's just that that connection builds over time. So sometimes you're just in the early stages where things are quiet. Sometimes you're being given space to develop your own awareness before it becomes more obvious. And she'll do that. She'll give you space. And sometimes the response is happening in ways that you're not even recognizing yet. And this is why the journaling can be really helpful, to write down what you notice, write down what you feel, write down any patterns or dreams or moments that stand out to you. Because when you look back, sometimes you'll realize that things were happening, you just didn't see the full picture yet. And another great question that comes up is, can the relationship fade? And honest answer is, it can. It can shift. If you stop engaging completely, the connection is going to feel quieter, but that doesn't mean that it's gone. You can always return to it. You can always reconnect. You don't need to start from zero. You just need to begin again where you are. And that's something that's really important to remember, because it takes the pressure off of doing everything perfectly. This is not about perfection. It's about presence. I will say that as far as it fading, and Hekate has her purposes. Okay. She is one of those goddesses that when she comes to you or when she does something with you, it's for a reason. So if you're just trying to connect for no reason, I mean, you can still maintain that relationship with her, but after her work with you is done, um after her work with you is done, after you have made, your journey into whatever new space you were going into, after you've climbed out of the hole, after she's lit the path, she's walked it with you, we're on the other side of it, things are calming down, it does fade. It does fade a little bit. She's helped you, and now she has how many other people to go help? And I'm not saying that she leaves you, because she doesn't. She's always there, but she might not be in your face because you don't need her all the time. You're in control of your own life. You chose the path that you walked down. She doesn't pick it for you. You made that decision, and now you're there. So if it turns out to be something that is aligned with you, and it works out, that's great. Now, if it's not something that works out and it's not aligned, and let's say you made the wrong choice, or you put yourself in and just, you took yourself out of one situation, put yourself in another, because we do that. We're humans. She's not going anywhere. She'll still be there. And even if you kind of disconnect, you can come back. It's really not a big deal. It's really not. As you continue building the relationship, something else that naturally starts to happen is you begin to trust what you're experiencing more. And that trust is what allows the connection to deepen in like a real steady way. So it's not like blind trust, not forcing yourself to believe something, but like a grounded, steady trust in your own ability to observe, to feel, and to recognize what's real for you. Um, because at the end of the day, working with Hekate or any spiritual being or having any spiritual connection is not about becoming dependent on signs or constantly needing confirmation. It's about building a relationship that feels stable, respectful, and real, something that supports your growth, not something that is going to make you feel confused or powerless. So over time, you might notice that you don't need as many external signs. And that can sometimes feel like things are fading, but you don't need them. You're not constantly asking, is this her? Because the connection feels familiar. When she's there, you know it. You recognize the energy. You understand how she tends to show up for you because you've built that relationship and So you trust your ability to tell the difference between intuition and overthinking. And that's a huge shift. So as you continue forward, maintaining the relationship becomes less about doing more and more about staying connected in simple ways. You don't need to go all out every time. You don't need to, like, it's just simple little check-ins that might look like, just checking in, even if it's just for a few minutes, or lighting a candle and just taking a moment to be present there at your altar, or at, wherever your space is for her. Speaking honestly about where you're at in your life, acknowledging her when you feel a sense of guidance or clarity, just acknowledging, like, hey, like, thanks, I felt that, or I see what you're trying to tell me. um, Even those things really, like, it, when you're talking to somebody, you want them to acknowledge that you said something, right? So, like, it's kind of the same principle. I mean, if she's popping in and she's giving you guidance, and you feel that, just be like, hey, thanks. It doesn't need to be complicated to be meaningful. And one of the most powerful things that you can do is just simply stay aware of your own life, because Hekate often works through your experiences, like we talked about, the decisions that you're being asked to make, the patterns that you're starting to see, the moments where you're being guided to step forward, to let something go. That's where her presence becomes the most real. It's not just in ritual, but in how you move through your life. So I want to ground this in something practical and important. You always have agency as well. So working with Hekate does not mean giving up control of your life. It does not mean that you have to follow every feeling or every nudge without question. You're still the one making the decisions. You're still the one in control of your life. You make the choices. You choose where you're going. You choose what you're leaving behind. You choose what you're walking into. She's just there to give you the clarity, to light the way, to open doors for you. She's really great at clearing the path for you to get there. That is something that you can ask her to help you with, like road opener work. That is Hekate territory. Um, but she can guide you. She can illuminate those. She can help you see more clearly. You're in control, and a healthy relationship will always support that. It's not going to take away from it. So if you ever feel pressured or overwhelmed, or like you are losing your sense of self, that is your sign to pause, ground, and then come back later to center. Maybe take a good assess the situation, make sure that that's who you were talking to, make sure that that you're good, that you haven't accidentally let something in or whatever. But, like, it shouldn't feel that way. If you start to feel that way, you need to stop and back off, come back to it later, try again, see what's going on, maybe go cleanse yourself, do some extra grounding, because this path should definitely feel empowering, not destabilizing. So as we start to bring, like, all of this together, I want you to come back to that image from the beginning, right? When I asked you about, like, standing at the crossroads, not lost, not stuck, but just, like, aware that you're in a moment of choice. Hekate doesn't walk that path for you. I know I've been saying this, but I need you to understand. She does not walk that path for you. She stands beside you, holding the torch, helping you see what's in front of you. She shows you what's there, what's been hidden, what's possible, but you decide which direction that you take. And that's what makes this work so powerful. It's not about handing your power over. It is about becoming more aware of it. It's about stepping into it. So if you're at the very beginning of this, keep it simple. Stay consistent, stay grounded, stay honest. You don't need to rush. You don't need to force anything. Just take the next step that feels real for you. And allow the connection to build naturally from there, because the path doesn't open all at once. It reveals itself, and it's like one step at a time, right? My experiences with her have been very grounding. I've had humbling experiences. I posted some videos one time where I had invited her in. I did a little, I was doing some work. I had a working going. I had a little side work for her where I did like a a candle and I dedicated it to her, and I was like, hey, here's a little offering, and I don't want anything from you. I'm just honoring you right now, but you can like come and watch me work if you want to. She's the goddess of witches. She loves to watch you work. So and then I proceeded to totally botch my working. And I was like, it was absolutely humiliating. I went back and fixed it. But she didn't care. She did not care. She sat there and had that offering and was like, you go, girl. Fuck it up. Yep. I know. And because I'm like, after the next day, I'm like, I know. Because I know she was here. I know she was with me. But she's not going to judge you. She's not going to judge you for messing up. Um, I see some questions over here. Let's look at some questions because I know this is something that like I can gab on and on about, and I know like Trish has to be out of here at the right time today. So I would like to go ahead and get into questions, and then we can kind of like bounce back and forth on topics as needed. I'm not saying let's end it now, but like let's see
We
where we
got
see where we need to be here with it.
got about 5 open questions. Let's start with
Okay.
that. When, if we work with her, do we worship her? Is it considered worship? Does she want or expect worship?
That's up to you. That is that's something that you have to answer for yourself. Now, I personally do not worship her um, because I see her in the way that I feel that she intends for me to see her. Let's word it that way. Because I know everybody has different experiences with her, but I feel like she wants me to see her as my friend, as my support system, as my equal. She's beside me. She's not in front of me. I'm not leading her. She's not leading me. We're in this together, right? Like we're in life together. So I don't feel that it's necessary to worship her. And because you're leaving offerings and stuff, like that's not worshiping. That's just showing respect. Like that's honoring. It can be if you intentionally make it worship, but like it doesn't have to be worship. You can honor her with offerings too. You can just show her respect. You can just light a candle for her, sit and talk to her. That's not worshiping. um I do ask her to help me in like some of my workings and stuff, but it's not like I don't like send prayers to Hekate. Sometimes like if it's like for protection or like I want, to make sure my family is safe or things like that, but it's not like a you're going to get up every morning and go sit on your knees at this altar that you have to meditate. There's no rules. You're not I don't know. But if you want there to be a routine, you can also do that. There's nothing wrong with that. So it's really just how you feel about it, how your relationship develops with her, and where that goes for you. Because, like I said, every person's relationship with her will be different. Some people will have a relationship with her, they'll never hear a dog or see a dog or give two craps about a dog, you know, but maybe they have horses or maybe they connect with her in other ways. Maybe she comes to them in their dreams. She's been known to appear in dreams. She will show her faces in dreams. She's very good with dreams. Dreams, that's a liminal space. That's where she lives, in those liminal spaces. So when your subconscious is down or your conscious mind is down and your subconscious and you're like kind of in that plane of, she'll show up. But definitely you don't have to worship her if you don't want to. um mm. But yeah, you don't have to. That's going to be something that you make that choice for yourself.
Where do we leave the offering? I take offerings to the beach. Would that be respectful?
Hmm. Very respectful. Here's the thing. So with Hekate, so you don't want to you don't want to litter, but things that are biodegradable or can break down, herbs, a lot of candle wax, you can even check what your candles are made out of, but a lot of candle wax breaks down now. It's not like it used to be where it was just like horrible for the environment. So I mean they do sell those still, but you can just check it. But the thing about Hekate is, okay, so when the Titans, let's go all the way back to Greek. I'm taking you way back, Elle. So let's go all the way back to Greece. Hecate was not always the goddess of witches. She was a titan. She was a titan. And when Olympus overthrew the Titans, Hecate turned on her own people to help Zeus overthrow the Titans because she knew she knew that it was necessary. She knew that this needed to end for something better to happen. So when all of that happened, Zeus gave her these gifts. He gave her she already had power. She was very powerful. Without her, he probably would not have been able to overthrow the Titans, but he gave her reign over land, sea, air, and the underworld. So I think when he did this, it really opened up a lot for people that ended up traditionally worshiping her, honoring her, working with her, and even the people today, modern. It opens up so many possibilities for offerings because you can do something that is literally like picking up trash outside, and that's good for the earth. That's good for the land. That helps clearing stuff out, clearing out brush or like stuff that's fallen along the sides of the roads, things like that. That's really good. Like she loves that. But you can also do the same thing, like with the sea. If you wanted to pick up trash from the sea, if you want to take something to the sea and send it out as an offering, as long as it's not going to hurt any animals, it's fine. That she would love that. If you this it's the same way, okay, like the sky, if you pick a feather up, just intentionally send it back into the wind, just little tiny things. um but you don't have to put them anywhere specific. You can definitely do what you're doing. You can have them at your altar. You can, when, like I said, when I'm out, I take the kids to the park and stuff. I pick up trash while I'm there. What makes it an offering is the intention that you're doing it for that purpose. But I've always picked up trash. Now I'm just more aware of it when I do. Um, but that's something she actually told me in a dream. She came to me in a dream and told me she wanted me to pick up trash. That sounds so weird, I know, but that's what I got out of it. So I started picking up trash more intentionally. But yeah, all these things happen. And I think the reason that Zeus, this is not in a, well, I did read it in one book, but I support this theory. It's not in all the books though. But I think that the reason that Zeus gave her all these things is because she was so powerful that he was almost afraid of her power. And he knew that she didn't really like people. She is kind of antisocial, right? So he knew that she didn't really like people. So he gave her all these things, knowing that she would not stay on Olympus. She would go to the underworld and make her home there. And she did. And I don't know. I kind of feel like there might be something to that.
So Bobby asks, I don't fully understand shadow work. Can you give an example of what that looks like with the black mirror and what you might feel? So Bobby got our Hecate box from Two Sisters. So it comes with the black scrying mirror. So she just might need a little bit more guidance on how that works with Hecate.
So what you're gonna see with the mirror, especially if you continue to use it in an ongoing, consistent way, um, also make sure you follow the guidelines for opening and closing that, because it's not like, I don't want to say like, every mirror in your house is some kind of portal. I don't believe that, but I do believe that once it is, it's not until it is. So, and if you're intentionally using it in a spiritual way to have visions or for scrying and things like that, then it definitely is, because you've made it that. So just make sure you follow the directions. But also, so shadow work is like, it's when you notice or when you pay attention to the shadow side of yourself, the parts that you don't like. Like when somebody says something to you and it triggers you and you have like a reaction that's a little more than you meant it to be, and you think about it later, figuring out what triggered that reaction, down to go deep, like back to your childhood. Where does this stem from? What made me react like that? That is doing shadow work. That, and then what you're going to do once you figure something out, once you figure, because lots of people have lots of different triggers. So once you figure out one of your triggers, and it might take time, and that's fine, Once you figure that out, you can go back to your mirror. Go back to your mirror. You can sit with it. You can see what pops up. You can see um, while you're sitting there, focus on that trigger, focus on where that trigger comes from. Um, you're not trying to fix it. You're not trying to fix it. You're just acknowledging it so that it can integrate with you into your life now, so that it doesn't trigger you anymore, so that your actions aren't the same to it anymore. It's like a form of healing. You're never going to be fully healed like that, but like you can heal and accept and forgive yourself, and work that stuff into your life. But that's what you're going to do. It's identifying triggers and then it's acknowledging them. So from then on, when those triggers come up, you're just going to stop and think like, okay, I already know where this comes from. Calm down a little bit and then acknowledge it and then try to move on in a way that you are not triggered. And over time, those reactions start to just not happen as bad. The intensity isn't so much. You're not triggered so often. You're not triggered so intensely. But you can use the mirror to receive guidance, to receive visions, to receive, look for symbols, look for numbers, look for anything that's popping up in there, and think about, like, if you have a trigger, maybe you can't figure out where it stems from. Think about that trigger and where it comes from, and maybe you see something that like triggers a memory, from way back that you've forgotten about or you've suppressed, because that's where your shadow self lives, and stuff that you have suppressed. So try to go at it in that angle. Let me know if you it did we did a shadow work webinar, right? Go to the Yeah, I thought so. Go to Witchsea, under the Witchsea Academy tab. I have a webinar on shadow work. And that's probably going to be a lot more helpful than what I can tell you. And you know
For the giving part, you said intention and something else. I couldn't take notes fast enough.
for the giving part, like for offerings, it was probably intention and attention, like just the being present, sitting there and focusing and being present in the moment, and giving her the attention and the intention, intentionally being open to receiving the guidance, can be an offering in itself, because you're offering your time, you're offering your presence, you're offering your attention, and you're giving her that undivided attention to have that space and that time to guide you in whatever way that she feels that she needs to guide you. um I think that time is a big thing that gets overlooked, because everybody's like, well, I gotta put food, or I gotta do water, or I gotta do this big beautifully dressed candle, and it takes so much time to do those things that you could have already been sitting there actually locked in you know so I think that matters sometimes. I mean, it's nice to do extravagant things, but sometimes they just want your time. She doesn't want performative. She doesn't want that. She wants honesty. She wants raw. She wants you to come to her how you are in the moment.
I see her a lot in meditation. Is that normal?
If she's calling to you, or if you're calling to her, if you're communicating, are you actively practicing with her, or are you actively honoring her? Um, if you are, then yeah. If you're not, then it's probably just her reaching out.
Let's see. This one's a long one. Let's see. Ex-best friend got me her statue. I know my best friend is hateful when hurt. Should I get rid of the statue? Since we broke up, I've had major anxiety and emotional stress out of nowhere. It hits me without even being worried about anything. She is a natural witch and has inadvertently sent people bad energy before. When she feels rejected, she actively wishes people bad. Is her negative energy attached, or did she give her to me right before we broke our friendship because it was the end for a new beginning. She bought it for me when she was with her boyfriend, another Gemini, may be relevant, I don't know. He hated me because I hated him for being mean and physical with her. I refused to absorb their chaotic and abusive energy, and we stopped being friends because of it over 10 years. I fear she is sending me bad energy, and I wonder if it's through Hecate. Can there be a conflict of interest between witches?
There, okay, that's an age old question. So here's the thing: when two people work with a god or goddess or any deity, and they start beefing with each other, and this person's like, oh, I'm calling on this goddess to throw whatever hex or curse over here, and this person's like, yeah, whatever, I work with her too, we're gonna throw it back. You're not throwing anything. That's the thing. She's not gonna go to bat for somebody. No god or goddess is going to go to bat for somebody against somebody else that they support. It's just not how it works. You get it just cancels out. I've always wondered I've always wondered about the TikTok witches, how that works out for them, because this is just so ridiculous. But it doesn't work that way. So if she works with Hekate and you work with Hekate and she tries to do something to you through her, that's not going to hit. Same with you. If you try to do something to her through Hekate, it's not going to hit. Now, a separate, whole separate scenario, could negativity be attached to that statue? Yes. Not because it's a statue of Hekate. It could be a statue of a moose. Who cares? What I'm saying, anything that she gave you, she could have done something to. She could have, you know, it could have the negativity of the energy that she carries attached to it. There's also problems with like the evil eye, and that's just a lot of people don't even realize they throw the evil eye without intentionally doing it. When their jealousy is involved, or when, especially with like people that used to be friends and then they're not friends, or they had some kind of conflict, and then it's like everything you do, she's like, like she's tired of hearing it, that little side eye, that can bring negativity to you. What I would suggest, if you want to keep, do you like the statue? I mean, is the statue something that you want to keep? Is there a reason that you haven't gotten rid of it yet? Because if you like it and you want to keep it, what I would suggest is doing a deep cleansing of yourself, a deep cleansing of your home, and a deep cleansing of that statue. But when I say deep cleansing, we're not talking about like just run some smoke around it, okay? Take that statue outside and bury it. Leave it there for 3 days and then bring it back inside. Let the earth deal with that. That's something that, I mean, if there's a negative type of energy that is attached to an object, that's strong. That's like a strong negativity that you don't want to keep around. But if you just like the statue, you can clear it out. It's just going to take a little bit of time. I mean, I personally would try 3 days. Bring it back in. If it still doesn't feel right, take it back out.
If she, I'm just going to piggyback this question. If she wanted to just get rid of the statue, how would she do that respectfully? Especially
Um,
if it's of Hecate
what
or
is
a
it?
different
Does
god
she
or
know,
goddess.
like, what is it made out of? Because I mean, I have to know what it's made out of material wise. I mean, I don't know, because like if it's plastic, you could recycle it. If it's, if it's like ceramic, it just depends. If you just want to throw it in the trash, I would definitely cleanse it first, thank it for any good that it has provided, let it know that its services are no longer needed and that you are returning it to its natural life cycle.
Okay, so that one just said yes, thank you. So it must be something that we already answered. So we'll mark that one as done. And that's all we have for questions in there. And then people are just kind of
I know I
chit-chatting
haven't
away.
been looking over here, so I didn't know if anyone dropped anything else here. But does
Amanda has one in here.
sorry.
Does she ever take part in your life even before you ever knew her? As I
Yes,
listen to and look back at life, I see places she may have been with me in childhood. Yeah.
that's what I was saying. I said that in the webinar. I don't know, you might have been here, got here late or whatever, but like that's how she usually tends to arrive for people. So it's like once you've like met her and then you have built this little bit of a relationship, it's like one day it just suddenly hits you. Like you'll have all these little memories pop up, and it's not like, oh, I was called to Hekate or I called Hekate. It was Hekate has always been with me. She's always been there, and it's like you're just waking up to that. That is something that very normally, like frequently occurs with people, is that they don't feel like they're working with her. They don't feel like they came to her. They just feel like they woke up, like they just knew that she's always been there, that she had always been guiding them. They just hadn't noticed it. um Dogs, horses, bats, twilight, fire, moonlight have all been a part of my life. Yep. And that's something that popped up for me too. As a child, I always loved horses. I went to school to train horses. I trained race horses in school. I trained riding horses for a long time, and up until an injury stopped me from being able to do it. And then it's like later in life, I'm like, oh, horses, really? Makes sense. my
And
dog,
Jennifer,
my mom bred dogs. My mom, like the whole time I was growing up, she bred German shepherds and boxers, and she showed dogs, and she's been a dog groomer for the past 20 years.
Jennifer asks, does she like to dance?
Sure, everybody likes to dance. You can get down with Hekate. She likes a good she likes a good party. She's for it. That's a way that you could use to connect with her.
Jennifer said she came that way to her through dance. That's
Yeah,
nice. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, you can definitely do that.
like that.
She came to me in the dream. I wasn't scared, but more alert than anything. Yeah, it feels very intense. Sometimes it's like a direct. She came to her in a dream. She felt more alert. She brings a heavy sense of she brings a heavy sense of clarity, and I don't know how to explain the presence of it. But when I woke up from like the dream where she told me to pick up trash, when I woke up from that, it was on my mind. It was stuck on my mind all day. And I'm like, and I worked it over and I worked it over, because it's not like I just dreamed that she didn't like come to me in the dream and say, "Hey, I want you to pick up trash." It was a symbolic dream, but like it took me, like I just couldn't get it out of my head. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to get something out of this. I know I'm meant, because of that presence, that feeling that I had in the dream. Like it's this unmistakable presence. It's almost like it makes you, I don't know how to explain it. It feels steady and it feels calm, but at the same time you're like you're like, wow, something big is here.
There was a couple more questions came in. Do you ever do in-person retreats?
In-person retreats? No, I don't. I would
Maybe someday.
do I want to? I wait. Are we talking about like, do I provide the services or do I ever go to them? Because if you're going, I'm like, let's go. I've never been to one, but I'm definitely down to do that. Let's do that.
That would be fun.
Yeah,
Okay, and here's the follow-up to the statue. So she said she'll try that. The statue feels like metal. She likes the bearing advice. I'd like to keep it because my friend gave it to me when we loved each other. And and I still love her to pieces, but I can't be around her right now. Her, on the other hand, hates big when she's hurt, very resentful. So I was worried about the attached energy or sent energy.
that's sad.
It is very sad.
I would bury it. I would bury it, leave it for 3 days. You can hit it with smoke beforehand, or even like if you have some Florida water or something like that, something that's gonna like really just get in there, give it a good run it under some running water, rinse it off before you do it. But yeah, I would bury it, leave it out there for about 3 days. bring it back in. The earth is very, very cleansing, is very deeply cleansing. So I honestly think that would do the trick. If it doesn't do the trick, message me.
Should we try to connect with deities that are culturally relevant? I felt I've had a few moments with Hecate that felt very personal, but then I wonder if I'm supposed to try to connect with deities from my ethnic background.
She's not from my ethnic background, but I connected with her. I felt called. I felt like there's a purpose. I don't think that the pantheon that they come from or your cultural background, like your cultural background is important. Yes, you should try to connect with the deities or the your ancestors and things like that from your cultural background. But if you feel called to somebody else, it's not an issue. Um, these gods and goddesses, they all have their specific purposes. They all have their strengths. They all have things that they can offer you and things that they can teach you in specific areas that they can guide you in. Like there's literally whole books written on who to call on and for what purpose. They like doing it. They like doing it. I don't know how to reinforce that to you, but like even it's even been like proven to like people in certain careers relate better to certain deities. The deities themselves prefer to work with people, so they want to be needed. That's the thing. They don't, most of them, I'm not going to say all of them, some of them do, but like most of them, they don't want worship. They just want to be needed. They want to be acknowledged. They want to be respected for what they have to offer. And if you're coming to them and you're wanting to work with them and you're being respectful about it and you're saying, hey, I'm here and I'm open to the guidance, 9 times out of 10, they'll provide it with no questions asked, especially if you're being respectful. I do think that it's very important, no matter who you work with, do extensive research first. You want to learn their stories, you want to learn their histories, you want to learn how people traditionally came to them, what they traditionally offered, you want to know this deity's background. And I say that because the more you know about them, the more you're going to be able to recognize the signs that they're there or that they're hearing you or that they're nudging you. You can't speak a language that you don't know. So you have to do the research. You have to look things up. And that's going to help you in the process to be more respectful, because then you're going to approach it from a way of knowing. Um, in the future, when they answer you, you have to know what to look for. And you're not going to know that if you just like start reaching out to everybody and their dad. So just take your time with it and research first. But I don't think that the pantheon or the cultural background is as important as how you're coming to them, because in general, most deities just want respect and they want to help. They all have different things to offer. They all have their little specialties and they like to teach you that.
Thank you. And let's see. If given a sign, how should I respond? Coming home the other day, there were more than 26 vultures and they spread wings and watched me.
That sounds creepy.
That sounds crazy.
I
I'd be
just
like,
like
what is going on?
I just envisioned it in my mind, like so if you feel like you have received a sign and you want to answer, that's when you just talk to her. Just talk to her like a person, like your friend. You might want to take it to the altar. You might want to light a little candle or something and say, hey, I felt your presence today. I think that was you talking to me. If there's anything that you want me to know, or if there's a reason that I was supposed to come here, if that triggered me to come here for a reason, tell me, show me what I need to know, or, talk to me. Try communicating also through cards, through scrying. The mirror thing for Hekate is super useful because it's, again, like one of those liminal spaces. So scrying's really good. But yeah, you can try just start writing and see what comes out. There's lots of ways. Pay attention to your dreams that night if you acknowledge it, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're acknowledging it. She said something, and you're like, heard you. So just let her know that you heard her. And that if there's a deeper message or something more that she wants you to know, ask her to come to you in your dreams. Or if she sends something and you see it, but you're like, I don't know what that means, that's also a time where you can just be honest with her. Be like, hey, I need you. I know that you tried to tell me something, but I don't know what it means. Can you please try to find another way to tell me, because I'm not understanding? And she'll find another way.
And George said, off subject, this popped in my head. I saw a person with an owl head and a human body. Do you know what that is?
I'm not sure.
Might be one for the dream
It was in a
interpretation book.
dream. It was in a dream.
Is it a dream or it just popped in his head maybe?
I don't know. I don't know about that. I would have to look that up. I know owls are very like, symbolic of wisdom and knowledge, and they're intelligent beings, spiritually. So as a representation, I mean, but on a human's body, I'm not sure.
He saw that when he was a kid.
When he was a kid, I don't know. Could it have been like your? Have you ever seen an owl in your dreams since then? I've been woke by ravens. That's a little bit of a sign from Hecate too. Especially hearing the crows, the animals, the horses, the ravens, the dogs when there are none to hear. That's a sign.
He was in Mexico at his
That's what I
grandmother's.
was thinking, like kind of like totem popped in my head, but like and you have like totem animals. So maybe look into totems, but I don't know if that it could be indigenous related being in Mexico. I would look into totems and see. Like that was my first that was my first thought, but like I was just like, I don't know what a human body, but it's pretty similar, honestly. I can see where the brain would twist it a little. The more I've listened, the more I realized. The more I listened, the more I realized that she's been here the whole time. She was just waiting on me to catch up. Mm-hmm. Flowers. Flowers are a good offering.
Just feel like I lost chat.
You did?
Oh, there it is. Okay. It just took a minute. This was fun. This is a really good session. I enjoyed that a lot. I hope everybody got a lot out of that.
Yeah.
And great
Um,
questions. Really great questions.
I think it's just really important to come at the whole situation, deities in general, with respect. That's the main thing that I want you to take away from it, because I mean, they get offended. They do get offended. They're not going to get offended if you make an honest mistake, but I mean, if you just come in all willy nilly and throwing things around, they're not going to work with you like that. So that's why I said, just do your research, look things up. I have some book suggestions. I don't have them sitting here because you know how great I am at that. But Hekate, Goddess of Witches by Courtney Weber. That is, you can go to witchsea.com and search it in the search bar. It's on
Drop the link.
Witchsea.
Drop in the
And
links.
and I believe the other books are on Witchsea too. The Cindy Brennan series. So entering Hekate's garden, entering Hekate's cave, entering Hekate's cauldron, and I couldn't get it out. Entering Hekate's Cauldron, and she also has a book called Keeping Her Keys. I'm not sure if that one's on Witch Sea or not, but I think Tarot Fellow has all three of this of the other ones.
Yes,
Yeah,
we have a bunch of them.
the Hekate box from Two Sisters is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah, it was just built out of so much love, honor, admiration, and respect. We love that box so much. And you get a little scrying mirror, so a big guidebook that walks you through how to use every piece to build your altar. So it's nice.
It's a really good box.
Yeah.
I have that box.
Yeah. I want to thank you all so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time and, giving your love and admiration to the Blue Witch. We really, really, really appreciate that. And thank you again for all of your support and all your love. We really appreciate it. And we hope you have a phenomenal weekend. And we'll be back with you soon.
I found
Oh, the Bewitched oil. Yeah. The Bewitched oil is pretty good stuff.
okay, bye.